Hi everyone. Welcome to Leisrealtalk. Can you guys hear me all right? I think I didn't test my audio before I start. Oh, I think all right. Do I sound okay? All right. Okay. Sorry for the late start. It seems that Lei has been late to start her program lately. I think the world we are in is getting more and more dangerous. So the topics that we discuss carries more and more weight and sometimes it's quite a lot to comprehend. Um, so today, again, we have this very important topic. I actually have been preparing for it since Sunday, and I've been thinking about how to talk about it. It was not until this morning when I finally, how should I say, finally get some idea and put it all together. It's not that I'm not comfortable with the subject, or it's really. I think it's what I uncovered. I think what I uncovered is it's very shocking. At least I find it shocking, and and I don't think most people are aware. So let's see what I can present to you. All right. So October 7th, we were all shocked, right? We were all shocked by the full-scale terror attack on Israel by Hamas. And we were also shocked by, the amount of drones and rockets that were deployed. Um, the ability that Hamas acquired in such a short period of time was unbelievable. So it has admitted to have received support from Iran and other Iranian ally countries, but Iran denied it. So the role China and Russia have played in this attack becomes a subject of interest because of Moscow and Beijing's muted responses. Um, so it's still premature to conclude China and Russia's specific role in the attack. However, there are circumstantial evidence to suggest that what happened over the weekend in Gaza is linked to Beijing's overall global strategy to dominate the United States. And Beijing might have adopted a three-war strategy to weaken the US in its preparation for a military takeover of Taiwan. And the ones who reviewed this strategy are no other than CCP's own experts and media. It was when we read these pieces separately, it didn't mean as much, but in hindsight, CCP's own experts have already reviewed its strategy. It's just that we didn't pay attention. That's what I found shocking. So tonight we'll discuss first this China-Syria relations, and then we'll talk about Beijing's odd response or responses. And then last but not least, we'll talk about one Chinese military expert, his revelation of Beijing's three-war strategy. So stay until the end. So let's first talk about the China-Syria relations. The timing of Hamas attack is noteworthy. It was on Putin's birthday, October the 7th. It's also the day before the closing of the Asian Games in Hangzhou, China. So the link to Putin and a major sports event in China refreshed many people's memory of another recent war. Putin went to China and signed a number of strategic collaboration agreements with Xi Jinping while attending the opening ceremony of the Beijing Winter Olympics in February 2022. Upon his return, Russia invaded Ukraine. This time it wasn't Putin, but Syrian President Bashar Assad, who attended the opening ceremony of the Asian Games and held a summit with Xi Jinping and his officials. Now, China went out of its way to welcome Assad, who is sanctioned by international community, How China welcomed him? Well, actually, let me show you the slides. So China sent him a chartered plane um, to pick him up and send him back, flew him back. So you see how, I mean, it was Chinese who noticed this. They said, well, he flew on Air China. So that's interesting. And not only that, Xi Jinping opened the famous historical Leaning Temple in Hangzhou for Assad. Now, Assad is not even a Buddhist. Leaning Temple doesn't open its front door. And then this is its tradition. The last emperor who entered the Leaning Temple through the front door was Emperor Kangxi in the Qing dynasty hundreds of years ago. And the only CCP leader who entered the Leaning Temple through the front door was Deng Xiaoping. That he has been, I mean, he was the first CCP leader who entered the front door since 1949. So look at the red carpet that Xi Jinping rolled out for Assad. And so this is very, very special. That means, Assad was so special to Xi Jinping, right? And then they announced the formation of a strategic partnership. And so this is what Xi Jinping said. He said, in the face of the unstable and uncertain international situation, China is willing to work with Syria to firmly support each other and jointly safeguard international fairness and justice. All of that wording, it was certainly written with the United States in mind. Let me read you an excerpt from the Associated Press, and it says, Assad's visit parallels that of Russian President Vladimir Putin's last year for the opening ceremony of the Beijing Winter Olympics. And both leaders are not welcome in the West, but welcomed by China as it tries to expand its global influence and promote an alternative to the US-led international order. We know Syria is one of the supporters of Hamas in the Middle East, right? So even the Associated Press picked up was comparing Assad to Putin, because people say when Putin attended the Winter Olympics, a war broke out in Ukraine. And then when Assad attended the Asian Games in China, Israel, is attacked. So people do draw that parallel. Okay, so that's just the special relations between China and Syria. But now I will show you in China's own words why Syria is so important in its overall geopolitical games. So now let's talk about China's response, or the lack of, and why it's telling. So on October 8th, do I have another picture? Oh, no. So on October the 8th, the Israeli embassy in China called on Beijing to take a stand and condemn the terrorist acts of Hamas. But Beijing's foreign ministry statement made no mention of Hamas, while expressed no support for Israel. And then at the press conference yesterday, October 9th, the Chinese spokeswoman Mao Ning was asked by foreign media 16 times about what happened over the weekend in Gaza. Mao Ning did not even dare to mention the word Hamas once. And also on October 9th, the state-controlled English paper, the Global Times, published an editorial saying that the US and other Western countries were in Chinese, it's 拱火, which means putting oil on the flame. with their words and actions. So the Global Times is accusing the United States and Western countries, but not Hamas. Okay, and then on the Chinese internet, netizens generally spoke out in favor of the Palestinians, even though Israel has been one of the major funnels for Beijing to access Western military technologies over the past many years. So, Chinese little pinks supported Hamas by quoting Mao Zedong's expression, "We must oppose whoever our enemies support." But they confused Palestine with Pakistan. It's so pathetic. And then this is what I want to tell you. On October 7th, Phoenix.com, Phoenix News, which is the media outlet where the mistress of China's missing foreign minister Qin Gang had worked. Phoenix News published a post with the title, let me show you. Here we go. Let me make this bigger. To make this, no, I'll have to disappear. And it says, "If you dare touch my Taiwan Strait, I will touch your Israel." The article said that if the United States dare turn Taiwan against Beijing, then the CCP will use Israel to be against the United States. The article quickly spread in China. Now, there's no media press freedom within China. You know, those blogs that can go viral so quickly, especially with a piece that's so sensitive, right? So politically motivated and charged, express the official view of the attack, because there's no, if the government wasn't behind this piece, there's no way that this article can go viral in China. But this article spelled out China's Middle Eastern strategies with the aim to bring down the United States and the role Syria plays in this strategy. So let me come back. So let me just tell you what the article said. By the way, I will post the links to these articles a few minutes after we finish this live stream, so you can read it. So this one says, in the beginning, it says, China's building friendship with Syria is really a good move and is definitely a thorn in the Middle East for the United States, making it painful to scratch and difficult to sleep at night. Whatever that means. And this time, China is ready to counteract the United States by forming close cooperation with Syria to strike at American pawn, Israel. And the article goes on to say Israel is an important weapon planted by the United States in the Middle East. Israel is important to the United States. And it says this time China confronted with the United States in the Middle East by using a few strategies. So then it talks about its strategy. The first strategy is that with China's tireless efforts, Iran and Saudi Arabia eliminated their suspicions and restored diplomatic relations. It's a good start. This is I'm reading you the quote, the translation. It's a good start for China to implement its plan to unite the rest of Middle Eastern countries. That's strategy number one. The second strategy is forming an alliance with Syria. It says this time by breaking the U.S. sanctions and inviting the Syrian president's family to attend the Asian Games, China is showing the world that Syria will stand up with dignity and with the unity of all countries. American sanctions will be broken. And it goes on to say that China will achieve three goals through an alliance with Syria. The three goals are the first is breakthrough. The first breakthrough, goals, breakthroughs. So the first breakthrough for the CCP was when China brought Syria back into the League of Arab States. They can fight Israel together. So goal number one is by bringing Syria back into the League of the Arab States, they can collectively fight Israel. Goal number two, it says the second is that Chinese influence will extend into Syria. We cannot rule out the possibility that Chinese air defense systems um, will go into Syria as well. So it's saying that it will. Basically, it's saying that China's air defense system will go into Syria. And the third strategy, or the third goal, is China would enter into cooperation with Syria for its economic infrastructure, with the condition that China provides security to Chinese companies in Syria. Now, this is a very, very, you can't tell from the wording what China's intention is, but it's basically saying that um, China has told the Arab nations, okay, to ignore religious differences among them and focus on ethnic conflict with Israel, and then get themselves united to deal with their common enemy, Israel in this case. And then that's goal number one. The goal number two is by allowing China's defense system into Syria and sending security forces to, quote, protect Chinese-built infrastructure or Chinese companies, the CCP will effectively build military bases in Syria. It's not, on the surface, it looks like it's sending security forces to protect its companies and Chinese-built infrastructures, but it's really, it will allow CCP to send its military forces, build military bases in Syria. The article has gone viral in China and caught the CCP's attention, so it's taken down now. But in some smaller websites, you can still find them. So this article has explained why Xi Jinping gave Assad such a big warm welcome. Right? So we know Assad is a big supporter of Hamas, but some people might challenge me and say it's still a stretch to say Beijing is directly behind Hamas's attack on Israel. It's true, right? Well, this strategy that's spelled out in this article is only part of CCP's global strategy. It's only one part. And we need to talk about CCP's global plan to take down the United States through various regional conflicts, as well as Americans' own internal conflict, like the Democrats' obsession with suing former President Donald Trump. But anyways, I want to show you in New York. Hamas supporters protesting, I think it's outside the UN, are waving Chinese flag and former Soviet Union flag in addition to Palestinian flag. Hold on, let me show you the picture. So here's the picture. There's a video. This video was caught by Chinese and was uploaded to Twitter. And I just took a screenshot. So you have the one on the top is this former Soviet Union flag. The one on the bottom is the CCP, the Chinese flag. So they're waving these two flags in addition to their flag. Isn't that telling? Does that tell us? So you tell me, is Russia and China, or the CCP? I shouldn't say China. I should say CCP behind this. All right. Well, I'll leave that question to you guys. But let me talk about the most important piece I discovered. Right. CCP's Middle East strategy is only part of the overall plan for the regime to take down the United States. An article written by a Chinese military commentator affiliated with a think tank discussed it in detail months ago. When we read that article at the time, we weren't very clear what he was saying. But now, with what happened in the past couple of days, it has become very clear that is the CCP's strategy. So he reviewed the CCP's 3 war strategies to weaken the United States before the Americans faced the CCP in the Taiwan Strait. So So here's the article. Let me talk about this article. Um, this is the article. I'm just gonna read you what's said in the article because it's impossible for me to show you that on the screen. So the three wars are an European war, a Middle Eastern war, and an East Asian war. The aim is through these wars, through these three regional conflicts, the United States would be caught up in regional conflicts and therefore wouldn't have the bandwidth to deal with the CCP. So the European war is the Russian-Ukraine war. So this is what the article says. It says, at present, the Ukrainian war is at its last leg. And the Ukrainian counter-offensive struggle isn't doing very well. That's why Zelensky has wailed, if the war is lost or if we lose the war, then NATO would collapse, or the United States and Russia would go to war. And this person's the author of this article said, a US-Russia war is not likely because the US is unlikely to sacrifice itself for Ukraine. I have long said that a place as important as Afghanistan can be given up by the Americans, let alone Ukraine. As long as the US gives up Ukraine, Russia and Europe will rebuild the European security system. Then NATO will have to disintegrate. This is what the Chinese wrote. He explained why things don't look too well for the United States by illustrating. He explained why things don't look too well for the United States and the Biden administration by illustrating Anthony Blinken's goal during his visit to China a few months ago. Any prolonged war creates economic pressure for the U.S., right? And isn't welcomed by peace-loving nations. Peace-loving countries or people in peace-loving countries don't want to have war because it's costly, and the CCP knows that. This is in its mind, this is the West's weakness. So this is what it wrote. It says, in a delusional attempt, Blinken tried to break the China-Russia alliance or union to alleviate the pressure on NATO. On the other hand, he is preparing to reach some kind of reconciliation with China to prevent the U.S. Pacific Island chain strategy from bankrupting. And it says, the second reason for Anthony Blinken's visit to China is that the U.S. is facing a serious crisis in the Middle East. That's the next page. Yeah, so I should make this bigger. I have a quote here. The United States is facing a serious crisis in the Middle East. In the Middle East, China has made three big moves. First, the reconciliation of Saudi Arabia and Iran. Second, Syria has rejoined the Arab League. The third, which I translate for you, the third is the realization of statehood for Palestine. The next step is the handling of relations between Israel and the Arabs, which I'm afraid will have to be resolved by war. Okay, this person wrote this a few months ago in April. Okay, and then it says the United States has three buddies around the globe. The one in Europe is the Great Britain. The one in the Middle East is Israel, and the one in Asia is Japan. To a certain extent, the key to destroy American dominance is to deprive these three countries of the ability to do anything. And it talks about the strategy to make the Great Britain dysfunctional. It talks about how to make Japan ineffective. I'm not going to focus on that, but it says to abolish Israel, one ought to support Palestinian statehood and safeguard the legitimate rights and interests of Palestine. And And it goes on to say the third reason for Tony Blinken's visit to China was to try to stabilize relations to avoid a strategic conflict between China and the United States. Now that two major battles have begun, okay, two major battles have begun. That's in April, okay? Um, the United States, I mean, this article was written in April. I mean, this one may be, it was between April and June. One was in April, one was in June. Anyways, it's around that time. But it's the author already knew that the second war would break out. It says the United now that two major battles have begun, the United States is facing war on two fronts and is under stress. And if a Pacific war begins, it will face three wars. So the US wants to stabilize relations with China so it can focus on Europe and the Middle East. I'm afraid this is United States wishful thinking. Okay. And then this author goes on to say, we know very well that the abolishing of the island chains in the Pacific, the abolition of NATO in Europe, and the abolition of the dollar hegemony in the Middle East are one and the same from China's strategic perspective. As far as how we prioritize them, meaning the three strategy in Europe, Middle East, and Asia, Southeast Asia, as far as how we prioritize them, it will depend on the situation on the battlefields. Okay? Now, who wrote this? I'm sure you want to know who wrote this. The author is a military as a veteran. He was in the military service, and he is affiliated with a think tank called Kunlunce Research Institute. It calls itself a comprehensive strategic research and consulting service organization dedicated to the realization of the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. It's a mouthful to say. It's a hard-left think tank that opposes economic reforms, market economy, and private ownership. Many Chinese scholars didn't take these hardcore leftists seriously, but I think they were wrong. Someone at the very top obviously has taken these people very seriously and has taken their views and strategies very seriously. Because what he described in the articles are unfolding in front of our eyes. And in a follow-up article, he's even more specific about the three wars. Let me go back to my other slide. Here. Yeah. Okay. All right. So he said, we used the three battles to defeat the Chiang Kai-shek's nationalist regime. That's the civil war during the 1940s. And after the three battles, a financial crisis broke out in the nationalist region, the territory controlled by the nationalists, and currency was devalued to be worthless. He said the three new global battles are, because I think the author wants to repeat the same strategy the CCP used during the Civil War to defeat the Chiang Kai-shek's nationalists. And so he said the three new global battles are the European battle, the Middle Eastern battle, and the Asian battle. Currently, the Ukraine war is the European battle. The Middle Eastern battle will be an Arab-Israeli war. And the Asian battle will be a second Korean war. After the three battles, both the military and financial hegemony established by the United States after the Cold War will disintegrate. It is inevitable that the dollar will become waste paper and devalue sharply. I think that's the precondition the CCP wants to create for itself. It feels that the article didn't say, but I think what's implied is that will be the time, the right time that the CCP feels confident to overtake Taiwan, because the United States would be weakened. And I think there's a fourth war, but it didn't mention it. It's the war to turn Americans against Americans, an internal war. Because one of the articles, one of the two articles this person wrote, it used a Donald Trump picture. It was the it will use the picture of Donald Trump, showing up in a U.S. in a New York court. The whole article did not mention a word about Donald Trump, but it used his picture. I think it's implying a fourth war, but it didn't say. But anyways, so the article was it says, uh, okay, it says currently Russia will win the war in Ukraine, reconciliation between Saudi Arabia and Iran, as well as intra-Arab unity will siege the US-Israeli hegemony. As for East Asia, North Korea is ready and has 2 bombs and 1 satellite. That's an idiomatic expression for the CCP. It means North Korea has atomic bomb and intercontinental ballistic missile, and 1 satellite, meaning it has the ability to send satellite, and therefore posing a threat to American hegemony in East Asia. Okay, so article was written in April this year. And many of the things described in the article are unfolding in front of our eyes. And I think it connected many dots, right? So it explained the collaboration between North Korea and Russia. And it explains some of the actions by North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. So we still vividly remember, let me come back. Don't we still vividly remember what Xi Jinping said to Vladimir Putin when bidding farewell on March 22nd on his last visit to Moscow? He said, right now there are changes, the likes of which we haven't seen for 100 years. And we are the ones driving these changes together. The Russian president responded, I agree. So I hope the world leaders wake up from their delusion that they can coexist with the CCP. I think their strategy of de-risking will fail because CCP is the risk. So how can you de-risk when you want to coexist with the risk? The Western professional career politicians, envision a relation with China in which the United States and China run a match on their respective lanes. Like, okay, we could have a competition. We run our own lane. Let's see who wins. But that's not what the CCP has in mind. They're trying every trick to kick you out of the match. So I think I have a friend who explained this, used this analogy to explain the situation very well. And he said, the West always focus on its muscles, right? Its military strength, its economic strength. And that's like, you have big muscles, you're very strong. But the CCP is weak. It doesn't have these big muscles, but it works on your neurological system. By paralyzing your neural system, your big muscle is useless. You can't command your big muscle. And that's exactly what happened in Israel over the past weekend. Its intelligence system is paralyzed, right? Because the CCP is it's highly manipulative, and it works on your mind. It creates a psychological warfare. So this analogy of, it's targeting your neural system. It's attacking your neural system. So it's useless when you just build on your muscle. You have to protect your neural system. I think the West is just, invite the CCP to come in to attack its neural system and just focus on building your muscle. You're still going to lose. You're still going to suffer from a paralysis, right? No matter how strong your muscles are. So I thought that was a very good analogy. So with that said, I wrap up on my presentation. Let me see if people have questions for me. All right. All right. Let's see. Let me go through the super chats questions first. And then if you have questions for me, put my name in front so I know it's addressed to me. Um, okay, I think that seems to be the end of the questions. Um, from SIT HBK 007. I like that. We in the free world don't want war, but if or when diplomacy fails, we will defend against tyranny, aggression that want to destroy us. In their eyes, they see weaknesses, but we see it as our strength. That's very well said, but we have to work smart. We because any loss of human life is shouldn't happen. Um, because when you're not prepared, then what's the cost? It's the loss of human life. Think about what happened in Israel, right, in Gaza. So we need to be prepared. Just by having courage um, alone is not enough. You need to be wise. You need to see. You need to read. You need to know what your enemy is up against. So I really think I think this may be a good wake up call for the Western nations to reevaluate its strategy. I wonder if Xi Jinping comes to San Francisco to meet with Joe Biden, what is Joe Biden going to tell him, right? So that will be interesting. That will be a very interesting meeting. Um, Bammer, could you speak more on China's interaction with Israeli intelligence if you know anything? Um, I must say, China has effectively infiltrated the Western world, including Israel, very effectively. Israel has worked with China very closely in the past decade and has shared many technologies with China. After, during Donald Trump's time, when the U.S. start to bar Chinese technology companies from obtaining U.S. technologies, Chinese VCs went to Israel to obtain sensitive technologies. Why? It's because they let them. So I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because CCP has effectively infiltrated um, different levels of Israeli government without them being aware. That just shows you how dangerous they are. Same, I think, in the Western world. Same with Taiwan. Taiwan is probably the hardest hit. The United States, Western countries, and they all are. So this is a very good. I think what happened this last weekend is a wake up call. So it doesn't matter how many atomic bombs you have, how many carriers that you have in the Pacific, or how many carrier groups you can deploy around the world. They know that's their weakness, but CCP would do something else that you have not even realized. And this is what I've been telling the Western world all along. We have to think. You cannot just follow your mindset, think, oh, it cannot get to me because I'm strong. Why the nationalists lost to the CCP during the Civil War is mind-boggling. It's the CCP has nothing. I mean, it does not have. How did it win? Right, through infiltration and 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 misinformation, through misinformation, disinformation, and infiltration. People don't know. They believe in the CCP, or they believe the individuals who actually were working for the CCP, but they didn't. But they will appear, because they study you, they know your weakness, they know what you like to hear. They will say everything you want to hear and agree with. So it's impossible for you to detect their motives, because they have collected so much information about you. and they know your weakness. They know what you like. They know your soft spots. So then how are you able to win that kind of competition with them? And the only people that the CCP fears, the people that CCP fears the most is people um, who um, who who have faith. Why does the CCP persecutes Uyghurs, the Tibetans, the Falun Gong, right, and underground Christians, the Catholics in China? Why? It's because they know, CCP know, people who have strong religious faith are uh, are not going to fall into that trap, and they know all the tricks that CCP plays, and they um, so the group that CCP fears the most is religion. You know, and, same with the progressive ideology. They know, that's what it fears. So the fact that so the question is the prevailing is the prevailing ideology that we see in American society, is that helpful to help us to win the battle with the CCP? No, we have to go back to tradition. Otherwise, and the other thing that CCP fears is tradition. That's why that's why it has a cultural revolution. It wants to cut people from its cultural heritage, so that so that you will blindly accept their ideology. Um, CCP is basically a religious organization. I mean, everything it uses to brainwash people, the way it's Xi Jinping is forcing Chinese citizens to study his writing, to memorize them, and then you have to, and they say, to 入魂. I mean, he's asking people to take in his writing in their soul. I'm not making it up. Seriously, they ask Chinese people to study his writing and take it into their heart and take it into their soul. If it's not religion, what is it? It's not a political campaign. So Western government have not perceived the CCP as a religious organization. You see that as just a different government. Why would Xi Jinping ask Chinese people to take his writing into their hearts and into their souls? Why, if it's not a religious organization? So they'd better come up with a better strategy. It's an ideological war. It's not a political, it's not a it's not a territorial conflict. um, it's not, it's much bigger than that. Timothy Hall, thank you for the donation. Thank you. All right, let's see. There are a lot of comments. Okay, good. Um, Someone said religion is a defense for the uneducated and poor. People underestimate its power. Well, not necessarily. I think that's actually what Mao said. Didn't Mao said? It's either Mao Zedong or Karl Marx said that religion is a defense. Uh, it's the opium for the people, and is a defense for the poor and the uneducated. That's not the case. I don't think so. Um, uh, that would be actually a good topic to follow up on. Um, uh, okay, let's see. Jeff Ramos, what's the tactics against Japan? The comment from the three wars, it's revealing to me. Its tactic against Taiwan is to encourage there's a region, encourage, it's again using a regional conflict to encourage, what's the name, to declare independence against Japanese government. I'll do a follow-up video. I'll do a follow-up video on that. And it has three tactics to take down the United Kingdom. And they're all like territorial conflicts. Like, you know, uh, yeah, three territorial conflicts that the UK, historical uh, conflicts that the UK has been dealing with. Um, all right, let's see. From RAC BAS1, lay CCP leaders have an inflated opinion of themselves. Yes, they do, but they do. Um, but they are they're willing to sacrifice their people to have a life and death fight with the civilized society who cannot afford to see the loss of a human life. And so that has somehow become our weakness, right? So that's why whenever these people they take a human hostage as a weapon, right? They weaponize innocent life. So that's what they do. Okay, let's see. Um, Max Shredder, do you know that everything happened on October 7th? Putin's birthday is on October 7th. Yes, I said that. I said that. Um, um, let's see. Questions for me? Mitsu, CCP wouldn't be able to control the world if the US and other financed privateers against them. No country they could implicate. Well, I don't think the CCP will win this battle. To be honest with you, I'm fairly confident in um i- in the democratic role. But the sad truth is when you are dealing with someone who's willing to sacrifice more life, so CCP will collapse, it will go down. But during the process, it wants to bring the world down with itself, and that's scary, right? So we will be affected. So the sooner we do something, the more people we could protect. So it will go down, it will collapse, but it's just in its last ditch effort to save itself, it's going to bring the world down with it, and that's what's happening. And then so if we're smart, if we could see through that, then we need to protect ourselves early on. Do not try to dream to coexist with. You cannot. It will not coexist with you. You can only coexist with someone who wants to coexist with you. You cannot. I mean, if your opponent wants to replace you, get rid of you, and you still want to coexist with them, right? What does that tell me? All right. Jason, what CCP fears most is their economy, the sanctions against them. They are already telling us what they fear. Without money, they can do nothing. Don't you think? I agree. I think the only reason, the most effective way, I saw somebody wrote an opinion and said that of all the uh, triggers and all the things that the United States have done, try to contain or try to de-risk the CCP. There's only one thing the CCP actually feared. That is the trade war. Uh, like you see, you can tell that by CCP's reaction, because when China does not have money, when the regime does not have money, it cannot do anything. So if I were the United States, I would immediately, you know, uh, you know, cut the financial ties as much as you can, because that would be the most effective way. You're right. But it's the money comes from the outside. The only reason CCP can be so egregious today is because the world has given them so much money, right? Okay. All right. Uh, Timothy Hall, according to Confucius, the ruler of China, any country, is supposed to treat the citizens as a father would treat their own children. These ideals are the real greatness of China. Comment? That's Confucius. Correct. That is the Confucius teaching. And throughout the dynasties, I mean, China has gone through many emperors. Some are good, some are not so good. But this belief has always been part of Chinese culture. The CCP is the opposite because they destroyed traditional values. I mean, they attacked Confucius during the Cultural Revolution. So the reason Cultural Revolution happened was because only by getting rid of removing all the Confucius teachings and beliefs could Chinese people believing CCP's teachings, right? Xi Jinping thoughts. So that's why. But you're right. That is the traditional Chinese belief. All right, let's see. David Lopan, seeing as Russia was removed from the United Nations Human Rights Council, how can we get the CCP removed from it as well? I wonder if the UN is still that important anymore. I don't think UN is effective in achieving anything. You know, in the end, every country has to make up its mind on how it can defend its own citizens against these, geopolitical threats. I don't think UN can do anything. I mean, Russia and China are two of the five permanent members. So what can you do with them as two of the who have two votes out of the five? So who pays you this? Who pays you, my viewers? I I survive on I survive on YouTube ads revenue, which is not much, and viewers' donation. So your donation, your super chats to me is a significant part of my income. I'm pretty much devoted to this. I didn't realize how much this takes me, and these are not light issues to be working on. So I think I'm losing my hair over this. I need to grow my hair a little bit. So you want to pay me? You want to pay me? I would appreciate that. So I turn down sponsors. I'm telling you, I turn down sponsors and partners purely because I want to retain my independence. Because I don't like the fact that when somebody even ad sponsors, because I feel like the people that I'm working for are my viewers and my subscribers. You are the people who I ultimately work for. And I know it's okay to have sponsor content from time to time, but if I have a lot of that, I feel like it dilutes my message, and it's kind of and I also don't have time to deal with sponsor content and this and that. So people say I'm too like narrow-minded. I'm too focused on what I do that I shouldn't turn away sponsors. But I really don't have time to negotiate with them and then to find out what they want to fit their ads in my program. I mean, I've done a few, but um, I would rather have a very straightforward relations with my viewers and give you the best that I can gather, and then that's all. So I'm starting my membership programs. I think I want to have membership, paying members, and I will have exclusive contents for them because a lot of information out there, and I'm only presenting you a fraction of what I find. So I will have members, paying members, and I think that would be the most effective way for me to monetize um, my work. So that's, if you ask me who pays me, this is, full disclosure. This is what I have in mind. Okay. All right. I'll take one more question, and I think that's it because I'm a little tired. Um, Light Abyss. What role does the CCP have with Iran, and would they back them if Iran became more aggressive in a war? Okay, so there's a chain, like, so you have Hamas, and behind Hamas you have Iran, right? Although Iran denied it, and then behind Iran you have, you know, you have CCP, and so yeah, the, same with North Korea's partnership with Russia. You think North Korea has the ability to supply weapons to Russia? Why wouldn't we think that China is behind North Korea? So CCP has all these front men that it pushes out to do things that cause troubles in the world. But behind all of that, you know, I think it's the CCP. That's just the I mean, more and more we're going to see that. All right. Okay. Jeff Ramos, thank you for the donation. And Richard W. After World War II, the UN and NATO was the best ideas at that time to prevent another world war. What would we replace them with today? I don't have a solution, but it seems that at the UN is not very effective because China has infiltrated the UN very effectively. So UN is not very effective. NATO, in the end, I still believe each country, the leader of each country and its people will have to make decisions on how to defend their country. I believe in that. No matter how many organizations you form, because everyone's priority and interests are very different. It's difficult. You could form a group and an alliance, to say, hey, we'll defend each other. But people are different. People have their own agenda, their own interests, their own goals. So it becomes very ineffective when you have to convince a group of 30 nations. Um, all right. I'll end it here. Thank you very much for joining me. And we'll see you later this week. Thank you. Bye bye.